We are joined by Renegades 2025 manager James Cooper. James, first off, thanks for taking some time. I know kind of getting right at the start of spring training here. It's kind of a crazy time. Just how excited are you for baseball season to be back and to get going here?
Well, I'm extremely excited, man. Organization wide, it was a successful season, for the New York Yankees. Although we didn't accomplish the ultimate goal in winning the World Series or winning enough minor league championships, we did reach a ton of goals individually for some specific players. And that's what it's all about, man. Developing these players where they can be permanent stays at the big league level and go out there and win championships for the New York Yankees. And I'm excited to get that sour taste out of our mouths and get things back rolling at spring training, get guys in the best shapes as possible, equip them with everything that they need, mentally, physically, psychologically, so they can go out there and execute at a high level. And then also, pave the way for other minor leaguers that are in our system for as we groom them and get them ready for their big league debut.
You kind of touched on it there a lot with the developing players. I know for you, your background as a college coach for 12 years at Grambling before joining the Yankees, how big of an adjustment was that for you to go from an environment, in college where it's really about the wins and losses into pro ball where it's yes, you want to win, and there is the goal of winning championships, but that player development role really takes more of a priority, kind of on a day to day basis.
And it has to. I mean, when you look at the drafts in the other two major sports, football and basketball, like when guys get drafted, you can have a rookie that's, fresh out of college that's ready to compete, in the NFL or in the NBA, but that just goes to show you how big the gap is between, a freshly drafted player that's out of high school, junior college, or college versus a 2-year vet, at the big leagues. And just 2 years in doesn't really consider you to be a vet, but there's still a, light age difference between, that polished MLB player versus a player that's just recently drafted. And so as a organization, you have to err on the side of developing first, and then also, winning comes second. But some organizations, just every org has different ratios of how much percentage goes into development and how much percentage goes into winning. Now you can go out there and win games with players that's not developed, but you're not going to win many. But also you can win more games when you develop the players to hone into their skills to get them where they need to be, whether it's pitching, hitting, catching, defensive players, or even base running. So with that being said, man, like, being at college, it was more about winning first, of course, and also, kind of, establishing of culture. And being at Gremlin for 12 years, and then also doing being with USA Baseball for 3 years, and though that 15-year time span, like it was really all about winning. And with USA Baseball, it's it's you have to win, and it's in a microwave, and you have to win quick, because when those teams get put together and you're in a tournament and you're competing for a invitation to get to the gold medal games, and then also when you get to those games you're trying to win, and you're trying to win right away. So I think those were the biggest takeaways and like some of the toughest conversations that I had when I first got in the org 4 years ago, was like, and they hammered it, like, how would you feel like if you had a priority over developing more than wins and losses? And they explained it to me, and and they showed me very detail of how like one outweighs the other. And we're gonna find times in sessions of practice and training where we're developing the tools, and then also we're going to have our sit downs and our meetings where we're contemplating on how we can come up with schemes and strategies to win games also.
You talked about the time at Grambling. Obviously, you're also a student athlete at Grambling. When you were playing, I kind of want to take you back almost to the beginning for you for baseball. Was that always kind of your sport growing up and kind of your number one, or were you one of those guys that you played a bunch of different sports?
Well, I played all three of the main three, basketball, football, and baseball, growing up. But when I became a junior in high school, I let go of basketball and just focus on football and also baseball. I think I focused on football because, people in my town that had football backgrounds thought I was a better football player than a baseball player. And then on the flip side of that, people from my town that followed baseball closely thought I was a better baseball player than football player. And I was um I was convinced that I needed the training of football physically, and that will allow me to be like a little bigger, faster, and stronger baseball player.
Mhm.
So those were one of, like, some of the main reasons why I stayed with football, and I enjoyed it. I would say I come from a football town, especially when you got guys like Devin White, who's just finished playing, with the Houston Texans, who won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who's from my hometown. Kendrick West, who played running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, is from my hometown. So L'Jarius Sneed, who is 30 minutes up the road, from my hometown. So I come from a football area. Um, but just I think it just worked out for me, to be in baseball. And I didn't have any desires to be in coaching. Once I committed to college to go play baseball, I just wanted to play. Never saw myself being a college coach, and never once thought about being a coach on the professional side and the professional development.
Hmm. How I guess how did that come about then that you ended up getting into the coaching side if that wasn't something that you kind of had thought about?
Well, once I finished my playing career with the once I got released by the Astros, I got picked up by an independent league team in the Can-Am League, the Sussex Skyhawks, out of Sparta, New Jersey. I played 1 year there, and I decided to get back in school and start working on my master's. And once I got my master's, well, once I was in grad school, the head baseball coach at Grambling at the time was Barrett Ray. He reached out to me and was like, "Hey man, I want you to come by and I can use some help out here on the baseball field, on the coaching staff. Like, man, you played at Grambling. I seen you play. You got drafted. I'm sure you have some knowledge. You're alumni of this school." And he was an alumni, of our school. And he was like, man, I'm sure you can give back, and you can, make some out of it. Now, at that time when he told me GA, I had no idea that GA meant graduate assistant. I didn't even know exactly what that was. And I actually kind of like blowed it off a couple of times to where, I just didn't get back to him. And so we had somebody else reach out to me again, and we wind up having a sit down. He kind of explained to me like what GA was. It mean graduate assistant, and you're in grad school, and you can be something that this team doesn't have. Somebody that, just recently played, and also you can teach these guys from your past experiences. And also, what made me to be a successful baseball player, he wanted me to try to, pour over into, the players that he had. And, I done that for 2 years, got my master's in '08. And that '08 season, I was considered a full-time coach. I was getting paid. And then he elected to take a position, another head coach position at another school in our conference. And I applied for the job, and I was named the interim head coach at 27 years old.
Wow. And then there for 12 years as the head
Yep, and
coach, just
yep, and there for 12 years, won a championship that first year. So it's, life kind of came at me fast, and I kind of thought, hey man, I got this all figured out. And then next year I didn't win it, and I realized, hey man, it doesn't really work like that. So I didn't have it all figured out, and the years just started to just pile up one after another.
Mhm.
We was graduating student athletes, we was getting guys drafted. We was going to play teams and schools that we normally didn't play. So we was able to, leave Grambling better than I found it, so to speak.
what is it for you? Obviously, being a student athlete there, then into grad school and being the coach for a dozen years. What made Grambling such a special place for you to be at for that amount of time?
Man, the people and the relationships, man, like I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, there were times where, we didn't have like all the bells and whistles that like a Power Five school would have, but we did like make up for it for like the love that was spread on campus and the camaraderie that was spread on campus and the togetherness that was spread on campus, which we use as a recruiting tool to, encourage students to, come here and, we'll get you prepared for life in baseball and you'll have some lifelong friends that you can call your brothers or even your sisters, uh, as you decide to, leave this place and, go work elsewhere.
Mhm.
But, just being at Grambling mean everything to me, man. And I just recently came back from Overland Park, Kansas City, where, my former college coach got inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame. And, just seeing like the things that he's accomplished in his career. Like, of course, he did it at Grambling, man. He was the head coach here for 43 years. And and he, saw fit to give me an opportunity to play and to go up there and watch him be rewarded just goes to show you that you can start from Grambling, but you can also end, in the College Baseball Hall of Fame.
You mentioned how long your coach was there for. Was there points in time where you were like, "Hey, I'm James. I'm going to be at Grambling for that long," and that, or was there always kind of like, I guess, what kind of went into the decision ultimately to kind of make the jump into pro ball from Grambling after the amount of time you were there?
Now, it was naturally on my mind. It was naturally on my mind because, like, he was a man that was a father figure to me that poured over into me over the course of my playing years and then also my coaching years. You got to keep in mind, like, when we travel to any big time road games, like, he'll be on the bus with us. I made sure that, he had a hotel room and it's on the first floor and it's right by the elevator, right by the fitness room, and where he can, get his workout in and go to his room and then come and go to the lobby and eat. Um, so man, I'm just thinking about like all of the conversations that we had on the bus, like to and from games, like just having um somebody in your back pocket that has been there and done that. You could bounce any kind of ideas off of him, but just having him there and knowing like how long he was there as a head coach, and you move to other sports on campus like Coach Eddie Robinson. He was the same way. He was there over 40 years. You had Coach Fred Hodge, who coached basketball, who won a national championship at Grambling, and who coached Willis Reed, who helped, the New York Knicks, win their only two national NBA finals. So, and, when you look at like those big three, that's what we call them, they all coached over 40 years. So it was in the back of my mind. I do feel that, um, we were at a place where we were so competitive each year, year in and year out. I mean, we had some down years here and there, but for the most part, we were competitive year in, year out. We were graduating our student athletes. I could have saw myself, coaching there for 20 years. I had already did 12.
Mhm.
So it really wouldn't have been, much to do 12 more. And then, I'm 3 years removed and, my assistant won a championship this past year. So that just goes to show that, it's in the right hands right now.
You know, when you think about just how much college athletics has changed since you left, the transfer portal, NIL, and now, the fifth year potentially being permanent and JUCO eligibility being different, like, is there a little bit of you that's thankful you don't have to navigate that, or have you thought at all about, like, man, if I was still coaching, like, how would I be dealing with all of these changes that have happened in the last few years?
But I'm gonna tell you something what all the great coaches do. The great coaches always, and I'm trying to be great. I'm still working on it. But I heard a great coach say once upon a time, like, it doesn't matter the level, like they always put themselves in that position to say, okay, this is what I'd do if I was here, or this is what I would do if I was there, or If I'm and I do it to this day, like when I'm watching the big club play, I'm just watching how the game is unfolding, and I'm going through pitching changes in my head of what I would do. I'm going through pinch hitting situations and the way I would shade the defense to play certain hitters and pitch selection. So, just have little sparring matches with myself on like I've been here before. I know how to handle the situation. So it's been times where I look at the landscape of, collegiate athletics, and I I kind of want to be back there in a sense of, well, like all the things that, teams were doing illegally, it's now legal. So now you could just go out and do them and it wouldn't be a problem. And you wouldn't have to, worry about looking over your shoulder, especially when you hear stories of um, like what they was doing at the University of Miami with football and, the Shapiro whole situation, or even SMU with, the Pony
Yeah.
Express, being paid to play and things of that nature. So it's all been kind of legalized in a sense.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I think in like a basketball standpoint, a couple of years ago, there was the whole controversy with like Zion Williamson, where they're saying like,
Hmm.
oh, they were going to pay him $100,000. Now you see some of the NIL stuff, and it's way more than that. And it's just it
Way
almost
more
kind of
than
makes
that.
you shake your head and laugh a little bit.
Yeah, it is laughable, man, to just see these schools and these ADs get these absurd amounts of money, to, you know, grow their program. And on the flip side of that, like, I actually just heard on the radio today that in basketball, LSU, South Carolina, and um another school. I'm trying to think of who the third school was, man. It was LSU, South Carolina, and Oklahoma spent the least amount of money in NIL for basketball this year. And they're the bottom three in the conference. Um, they're the bottom three in the conference. But on the flip side of that, you have the University of Indiana basketball who spent the most,
Mhm.
and it hasn't regurgitated any wins for them. So, well, it just goes to show that if you have the money, you got to spend it right. But if you don't have the money, then it's not going to equate the wins.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's always so interesting, when you kind of talk about that and what you were talking about before about the culture aspect of it too, right? And it, do you how much of that kind of almost translates over to the pro ball side? I know there's guys moving in and out, but there still is a certain amount of, you as the manager, whether it was in the complex 2 years ago or Tampa last year, and coming up in Hudson Valley this year. How difficult is it to make sure that you're establishing that clubhouse culture when there are always so many moving parts, here in pro ball versus college, where it's a pretty stable roster throughout the year? Maybe during the offseason, guys move around or graduate.
Mhm.
But how much harder is it to do that here in pro ball?
Well, I don't I can't speak from the Astros and back when I played. It was too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I can speak from how, the Yankees and how we run our organization, in a sense on the minor league side. I think the culture was actually kind of established before I got there. So before I got here. And of course, when I get to Hudson Valley, it'll just be maintaining, what was established, in Tampa from, spring training.
Mm-hmm.
And um, are you a fan of Chick-fil-A, Joe?
I am. I am. Unfortunately, there's only like one that's close to the ballpark up here, but I'm a big fan. Yeah.
And we use this analogy a lot. Like, that Chick-fil-A at that ballpark and the Chick-fil-A off of Dale Mabry in Tampa, their culture and their foundation is so knit tight that when you walk in there and you place your order and you get that really good customer service and you tell them thank you, what do they say back to you?
My pleasure.
My pleasure. And that's the thing, is whether we're in the complex in the FCL, we're in Tampa, we're in, Fishkill, New York, or we're, in Scranton in AAA. We want it to all look the same and be the same. And it's, the championship behaviors that we have. Leave it better than you found it, do your job and take responsibilities and be accountable for your actions. So, with that being said, man, we're hammering home like those championship behaviors, and those three pillars that we have from my championship behaviors works with, on the field, it works with in the locker room, it works within the weight room, it works within the batting cage, it works in the training room, it works it on the bus, it works it on the hotel, it works in the visitors clubhouse, it works when they're at their apartments. So and our biggest thing is, when we acquire a player via trade mid-season or a free agent sign that that hasn't spent 2 and 3 spring trainings at our complex. Like those are the culture guys those are the guys that we have to kind of you know um kind of hammer and force our culture on. And I mean, force may be a strong word, but um that is the guy that we have to like bird feed our culture to, because we want him to be immersed in it. And that's what we aim for. We aim for housing and seeing our culture be implemented at every stop along the way.
Mhm. Speaking of the stops along the way, you've been kind of with generally a similar player group for the last couple of years, from the
Hmm.
FCL to Tampa, and now in a Hudson Valley. Obviously, little different. We don't know who will be here yet, but what's it been like, kind of being around and seeing the development, both on and off the field, of this group of players that you've mainly worked with over the last couple of seasons, from where they were maybe in 23 to kind of where they got to by the end of last season, and how special is that to grow as a manager kind of with them through these different stops?
It's special, man. Like you mentioned before, I've been with these guys well, let's just say like the core of guys that'll probably be there. I've probably been with them over the last 3 years now. And man, it really gives me a sense of like a proud father moment, especially when, I've done that often in college where, I started recruiting a kid when he was, 15, 16 years, well, watching a kid when he was 15, 16 years old, and really started that recruiting process at, 16, 17, and to see him, sign to come to Grambling and maybe red shirt, and he gets the chance to play as a red shirt freshman, and before you know it, he's an all-conference player as a redshirt sophomore, and he's drafted as a redshirt junior. Like it makes you really feel proud. And to see like some of the players that were, 18, 19 years old 2 years ago, develop into a player at the end of, this past season where um, they've kind of, got green checks by all of the objectives that we set out for them this year. And to see the development of like those guys making plays that they didn't once make, or even make adjustments that quick, that took them 2 pitches to make an adjustment where 2 years ago it took them like 2 weeks to make it. So it's just I think it's a culmination of just pouring into that player, and like just seeing them graduate from checking this one objective off the box and moving on to the next one.
And I know also, you've been with a couple of guys who are on the staff. Tom DeAngelis is the hitting coach, and Dom Cox is the video and travel coordinator. Just what's it been like to kind of have those guys along for the ride, with you as well, and now up to this step as two new guys coming into Hudson Valley on the coaching staff this year too.
Yeah, man. Like those guys have a really good feel of how like the schedule that I lay out. So like the communication piece between those two will definitely be seamless. Once we go over like what we have and what we don't have, and like how much time we'll need to, transition to certain things, being in a new area. So having some familiar faces will work as well. I'll make things easier. And then also having Aderick Kelly, who will be our trainer, who was the trainer with us down in the FCL 2 years ago. So having him there as well will just be another familiar face. And not only is he a familiar face for myself, Tom, and Dom, but he's somebody that, spent the year in the Hudson Valley area. So he can definitely, look out for some unexpected speed bumps that we may get over, and we want to treat them like speed bumps. Like you get over speed bumps extremely quickly. So hopefully we can treat everything that come our way, like a speed bump. And then we also have Shooter, who will be, our clubhouse manager, who is a big time vet in the area to help us out as well. So, just to have those five faces who can all, be there for one another. And then also us five faces have like relationships with one another is going to make it that much more inviting for the new additions that we'll have, on the pitching side and also the catching coach side. And then also on the infield side with T.O. coming over from the DR. So excited to work with DK, who will be our pitching coach, and then also Caleb Martin, who will handle, the catching duties for us as well. And just show them what life is like, being a Yankee on this side.
When you talk about kind of making the jump up to a new area, kind of getting out of Tampa for the first time since you've been with the Yankees. Just what are you most looking forward to at kind of being at an affiliate that's not in Tampa this year?
Well, I tell you the one thing I'm not looking for is the weather in April. The
Yeah.
weather, the weather in April in Tampa was manageable. And then, just being from Louisiana, like, coming from just a warm weather state. It's not warm here right now. It's actually kind of freezing outside.
Mm.
Um, but just not looking forward to the weather, but looking forward to see how we just have some Latin American players. It's going to be their first time playing in weather that cold also. So it's definitely going to be a learning curve and an adjustment that they're going to have to make, to figure out what they need to do to get their bodies right so they can go out there and make the moves that they need to make, whether it's in the press box or on the bases or out there in the field on defense. Um, but when I was playing in the Astros org, I played for the Tri-City Valley Cats, and when we came to Fishkill and played, it was the Hudson Valley Renegades that was the Tampa Bay Rays
Mhm.
organization. So I don't really have a negative memory about the visitors clubhouse, but I do remember that it was extremely small when I was there. Of course, I want to be on the visitor side this time around, but I'm anxious to see like what the place looks like in comparison to what I remember, back when I played there back in, '04 and '05.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a little different now. The one clubhouse building is just the visitors side, and it's a brand new home side. So hopefully it'll be a good one. You talk about when you were in the Astros system there, like 04, 05. Those are obviously that, for them at the big league level, the tail end of the Biggio, Bagwell
Yeah.
kind of years. When you were a player, like at that point, did you have was there like a pinch me moment with some of those guys that they had around, as you're
Yeah.
this young guy right out of college?
I had a few, man. So I would say the first pinch me moment was in 2004. We played in the championship and we played the club out of Mahoning Valley, so the Scrappers.
Hmm.
So back in '04, '05, the Astros was winning. We lost in the World Series in '05 to the
Yeah.
White Sox that year. So, the Astros had like a winning culture throughout the org. We flew private from Troy, New York to Cleveland in a short season.
What?
Short season club. Yes. Yes. That was the pinch me moment because that was our first time like flying like private like that. So we took like the Tim Papura was like our GM back then, I believe. And he was the guy that got everything set up and was like, hey man, we want to give these guys the best chance to go out there and win. And and we had guys like Hunter Pence and Ben Zobrist on the team. And so we go to the airport at Troy. We're on the chartered bus. We go right to the runway. We get off the bus on the plane. We get to Cleveland. We get off. We're on the runway. We get off the plane. We get right on the bus on the runway, and we go to the hotel and we play. That was a pinch me moment.
Wow.
Another pinch me moment was my first spring training. It was a split squad day, and the Biggio didn't want to go play on the road, but he wanted to play in the outfield. And I played center field, and he played left. And I never forget. He said, "Hey man, you got everything. If it's over here, call it. You can have it." And he just wanted to get some work in. He didn't want to go play on the road that day. And a third one was when Kobe Clemens got called up from Greenville to Tri-City. Uh, Roger Clemens and his wife, they came to watch him play, and he threw of us field BP on the field that day. So like those were like three of my like pinch me moments, like facing Roger Clemens and BP, playing outfield with Craig Biggio, and then like flying private when you're in short season.
How did you do against Roger?
I hit one out during BP. And, I hit one out,
That's
but
awesome.
it was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, last year when we had our Bhutan baseball clinic, Rick Warner, our hitting coach last season, dialed up Shohei Ohtani on traject and was letting the kids hit off him and just face him.
Mhm.
And just the looks on the faces of these 12-year-old kids, if they would like foul a pitch off that from from Ohtani on the machine was, so I gotta imagine like it just must have been even more so because he was still playing at that point, right? Like he was
Was
coming back, right?
he was. So, he was actually, I think his last year with the Astros was like '06.
Mm-hmm.
So he was there.
Wow.
He was there, man. And he flew in between starts just so he can, see his son, make his debut with us. And, he still threw, he threw his bullpen, he played catch with some guys. He, faced us in the by throwing us some BP. And it was kind of nice, man.
Mm-hmm. Just one kind of last one to wrap it up here. What's a fun fact about you that maybe people are surprised to learn sometimes? Puts you on the
Oh
spot
man.
a little bit. I know.
A fun fact. Um, when I mean, I don't know if it'll be a fun fact, but like when I was named head coach at Grambling in '09, I was the youngest head coach in Division One baseball.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and we won the championship that year, so I was the youngest head one Division One coach in baseball to win a championship their first year.
Hmm.
Um, what else? Another fun fact. Um, oh, I threw Tom Brady back in practice
What?
uh, at,
How?
at the complex. So this was my first year in the organization. Um, Keep in mind, my first year in the org was 22. So, we were having we just had a regular practice set up, for like the FCL players. And we mainly do all of our work, our outfield work, field one. Now, but back when COVID was around, you had to like social distancing, and the Buccaneers facility was closed, but Tom Brady still wanted to throw passes. So he worked out a deal with Rhino, our head clubby guy down at the complex. Like, I want to throw some passes to some of my receivers. So they just used the open fields, the open outfields, because I mean it was the next best thing. Like, they didn't want to run the risk of the NFL seeing them at any of the Tampa Bay facilities, so they just came right next door, which was us. So that's how that relationship got started. So apparently, Tom wanted to get like some beef footage for a commercial for his clothing line, like the TB12. Like, this was right when it was getting ready to come out
Yeah.
in 2022. So when I get there, they was like, Coop, like, you can't do outfield on field one. And I'm like, why? He's like, you just have to go to field two or field three. I'm like, all right, cool. That's weird. I'm just not thinking none of it. Still don't know that. And only like two people knew Tom and his crew was coming. That was Ryan Ornstein, and well, I think maybe just Ryan knew. And
Mhm.
maybe Spratty. Maybe Spratty knew. And so I get there, and I can't go to field one. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden you just hear a buzz around the complex. Hey man, I think I just saw Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady's outside on field one. I think I just saw Grunk on field one with Tom Brady. And I'm like, cut it out. So I go look out the window. Well, I mean, I go look out the back door of the weight room to see field one. And there you have it. Tom is out there throwing passes to Grump and one other receiver. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like Tom Brady is literally like right here, like throwing passes to Grump. And so they get all the footage and everything that they want, and they get it wrapped up. And by this time, I just finished one of my outfield groups to work on defense. Tom comes over to um uh Chris, our head grounds crew guy, and he was like, "Hey man, I want to take some batting practice before I leave." And Chris was like, "Are you serious?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Man, I don't want to come out here and and not take no batting practice." He said, "Man, I love baseball."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "All right, man, let me get it set up." So Chris got on the radio, calls his groundkeeper. They get the batting practice set up, and I just so happened to be like the only coach out because I just transitioned one group to go inside, and they was like, "Cool, Tom want to take BP. You're gonna have to come throw to him." I'm like I got to throw batting practice to him, and they was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And so they get they get the cage set up. Uh, and Grunt comes over and says, "Hey man, I'm gonna go shag. I'm not gonna hit. Do you have a glove I can use?" So I gave Grunt my glove, and he runs out to the outfield. And so I'm literally throwing batting practice to Tom Brady, who got in the batter's box with no helmet on. So I was a little skittish for those first couple of throws. And and you can see the video, man. Like the very first pitch I throw was like nowhere close to the strike zone because I was a little nervous. But like after he hit one ball and he didn't hit it as good as he wanted to, and he went to like one of those cussing tirades that you see on the sideline, I just kind of relaxed, and it just happened, man. And he signed autographs for everybody that was out there, took pictures, and the thing about it, man, I just think makes it so genuine was he didn't like nobody acted like he volunteered himself for autographs and he volunteered himself for pictures. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did he do hitting? Like, I know he was drafted out of high school. Can he still swing it?
No, he can't. He can't. He ran into a few. I mean, it just, I mean, it just looked like he was just trying to hit a softball as far as he could hit it.
Oh my God,
But
great. He
left
found
hand
the
hitter
one
too,
thing
by
he can't do.
yeah. But it,
Oh,
it was fun though, man. It was fun. I that was like one of my first like wow moments or like a fun fact about me, I guess, being on the Yankee side.
awesome. Thanks so much, James. Appreciate the time.
No problem, man. Thanks a lot, Joe. Look forward to seeing you, dude.